Alright, so what you're going to do is open up a new After Effects program. Right-click the space for new composition, or the shortcut is Control N, and it will open up a new composition. Call the composition Kinetic Typography. Kinetic is a fancy word for moving. So kinetic typography means moving text. You don't need to change any of the defaults unless you only need to be a certain size within your screen, otherwise it's the size of your screen. Don't worry about the time code that's far unless you have a specific time you want it to last for. You can always edit at the end. Hit OK, and in your library panel you will see this new composition. Whatever composition you choose to work on will create a separate sub-menu in the timeline. So library, if you had multiple, you could switch back and forth, and every time you switched in your library to a different composition, you would see a different one in the timeline panel. To make a new text layer, you can just simply go to the text tool along the top, click the text bar, and draw a text box. I'm going to, just for the purpose of this, call it title. You can click off to get just the corners if you'd like. When you scale, be careful, it wants to skew depending on which way. So the easiest way to scale is just to hit S, and then you'll get a scale box pop up, and you can simply change the size of it there. As well, in the pixel ratio, you can change it. I'm just going to zoom out so we can see fit. There we go, the whole screen. Put that in the center, and you can again size it there or in the scale proportion. When you hit center, it will center in the center of your screen or wherever you'd like it to wait, depending on the paragraph tab. From there, what we're going to do is make multiple text boxes to cover over top of this. As well, in case you don't have the see-through background with the grid, the gray and white, that's just this little bottom button right here that looks like a grid. Turn it on, turn it off. Now as you notice, it looks like our text disappears. That's because our text is black. We don't actually want that text there. We're just using it as a guideline, so it doesn't matter that it's black. Moving forward, I'm going to make my new text layers, and I'm going to make multiple text layers. New text, and I'm just going to call them the themes of different movie genres for the sake of this activity. And what you're going to do is make multiple text boxes. Again, easiest way to move it is select the cursor, place it where you'd like it to go, then hit S to scale, and you can scale it, or you can hit R and actually get a rotation on it as well. So depending on which command you select, you'll be able to scale or rotate. Again, R is rotate and S is scale. And what I'm going to do is make multiple boxes of text to fill this whole thing. So I'm just going to pause until that's done, and then we'll resume. Just continuing, if you find that you want to put two words on top of each other really small, if you would like, see how it's not really fitting on top of that, you can select the words you're trying to adjust, and there you go. Select the words you're trying to adjust, and then in your paragraphs preview, where it says auto pixels, you can just change that to a different number, and it will change the balance between it. And if you just use the little cursor to move either side, you can say how far apart you would like the two to rest, so they're closer together. And then again, continuing to scale, we'll shrink the entire coordinates so you can properly fill any sides depending on what you're looking for. Okay. So in the end, you should have a major word behind as well as all the text in front. If I were to go down to my timeline and hide the title layer, you should see I should just see the words. I can remove the transparency to see what it looked like as if there was a solid image behind it. And I can make adjustments accordingly. You may find that it doesn't arc the way you'd like it, and then you would just make individual layers for the action to make that curve. Alright, so once you have all those selected, you are going to, all those layers done, you're going to highlight holding shift to select all of your layers. So we don't really need the title layer, so I'm not going to select that, but everything else I would like. And I'm going to click on this little square to make it three-dimensional. I've already clicked it, so I'm not going to click again. And then what I'm going to do is just select the first word, select P, which turns the position on. If you think about AutoCAD back before with the X, Y, Z, or 3ds Max, then what we're going to do is we are going to separate the dimensions once my computer decides to load. Give me one sec. Alright, so what's going to happen is when you actually select the word position, not the title layer, you can go to animation and separate the dimensions. What you'll see is that we get an X and Y position as well, so we can move things in a three-dimensional realm. What we're going to do is actually record the location of this to move it in and out of the screen depending on where we select. So as you can see, we can drag along the frames X, we can drag along Z, and we can set now markers. These stopwatches are recording our action. So wherever we are on the timeline, that's what's happening on the X and Y position. So wherever you'd like it to start, if you'd like it to start all the way off, you can make a recording and then again move your recording up X amount of time and bring in a new position. When you scroll it larger, it's coming closer. Again, you can move it side to side. Nothing's set until you're actually on it. If you don't want to record and you just want to test run, you can turn off the stopwatches. But you lose all the recording that you did do when you turn off these stopwatches. So if you want it to slowly come in at more of a swerve, then you'd make a couple markers as to how it then lands. And then maybe at 30 seconds it come back into the correct placement. And then if you move your time code, you'll see the actual trail it takes. Slides in from the side, then slides across. As you can see as well, when the 3D is on, you'll get X, Y, and Z, not just X and Y. And the Z actually brings it away or towards the screen. When you go smaller, in a positive number, sorry, it gets smaller. When you go to a negative number, it becomes larger in the screen. So you're moving through the horizon. And if you find that the numbers aren't going to where you'd like, you can just type in the exact number again. Wherever your recording marker is, which is the stopwatch being on, that's when a recording has started. If you decide you don't like that, you can move it to the beginning and move your stopwatches, but when the stopwatch is on, the action is beginning. So if you'd like to affect only one of the things, turn only one of the stopwatches on, or turn all three on, depending on how your variables are going to be affected. Ultimately, you'd like all the letters to come in together at the same placement. So what you're going to do is go through all of your layers you have and create a path for them to enter in. And then what we're going to do is learn how to actually move the camera to go along with this. Alright, so with them all selected, if I were to scroll the marquee head through the timeline, you'll see all the actions occur. But the problem is that they disappear once they go off screen. So what we're going to do is just extend each of ours so that they all end at the same place, but they all start sequentially different. And that way the text should remain on the screen so that we don't actually lose it once it comes there. Okay, so you're just going to extend every clip so they all end. Alright, so what it ends up looking like is a step ladder, and if you move your marquee head through it, you're going to get all your words appear, plop, 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 until you spell out title. I seem to have lost a layer. I'm going to just check back. What we're going to do after that is we are going to add a new layer called a new, so layer tab, new camera. Because it's great that we have all our action, but we want to move through the action in addition to it, so we're going to create a camera to go through the text we've just created. Okay. With the camera layer selected, select the P command to get position. You don't know where you want your camera to begin, but ultimately you know you want to see the title at the end and not the very last second. So give yourself a good 10 seconds for us to actually see that whole finished title together. But so what you're going to do is turn that anchor point on and just record that final point. Now, no matter where you move your camera to from there, we know where it ends off. Alright, so we have a camera layer and we have all our text in the correct order. From our marker, we set a marker to where we want the camera to end, and we can confirm that by looking at the position. We added that position key. What we're going to do now is go to the beginning of our timeline, and we are going to drop down our camera so we can see our transform. And this is kind of how we're going to guide through. It's transforming the location of our camera. Being that we're seeing our whole screen and not necessarily what the camera sees, we are going to switch to two views to get a perception of what the camera is seeing as well as what we have to choose from through the keyframe. So if I move through here, we can see those components move for the camera, but we're not actually seeing anything. What you're going to do is create key points of interest. And we need to direct the camera where the key points of interest are. So you're going to have to navigate through to where that is. We know that we want to end up, when the drama appears on the screen, we want to end up right where that drama is. So you're going to work with your orientation to ensure, and your point of interest with the recording going, to ensure that you hit the right mark. Alright, so switching back to the one view, what it's going to end up looking like is depending on what point of interest you've selected. So we know my first word is drama and it's up here, so I use the cursor to select drama. I'm actually going to be navigating a whole path for how that camera here is going to find the word. So I know as my word comes in, I can move the camera to where I'd like it to be to see that actual movement. And as you're creating it, see it's creating a path of how the camera is going to guide through it. So you can actually film the words as they arrive in. And you can change how close and farther you are away from the objects with the position. And you'll see that range of your camera based on where the camera position is located. And if you're not sure what you're looking through, you can just change the active camera tab to see what you're actually seeing through the active camera tab. Or to go back to the front where you can see everything. You can tap to the front tab to see everything in 3D of how it's all coming into place. So you're going to create a whole tracking system of all your letters. Once you are content with all your layers, you're more than welcome to add additional effects to your text. So if I'm back at the one view screen and I've decided that in addition to the camera movement, I would like to add actions to my text. It's very simple to do and adds an extra wow factor. So if I choose, for example, the word drama, since it's the one defaulted there, I just make sure I've selected the layer, go to Animation, Browse Presets. This will open up the Adobe Bridge portfolio, which hosts all of your drop-in effects, and it drops you right to the presets. Since you're working with text, good choice to go to the text layer. But if you would like to add an additional effect that it rotates on its tracking effect, just select any one. If you need to preview them, you can preview to start, but just double click it and it will take you back to the drama layer with the effect added. While it's on that route, it will do that. And you can select another layer, the horror layer. Again, simple and repeat. Browse presets and choose the preset that you think best suits the action and just repeat through it. So if your presets are open, then just drop it in. Once you are content with all of that, you are going to go to the layer and pre-compose. Make sure that you've selected all the layers you want to compose in this final composition. Layer, pre-compose, and name what you'd like to call it. So if this is in fact your title sequence, call it your title sequence so you can impose it onto your final movie track. Select OK, and then you'll find in your library you have your title sequence composition, and you can scroll right through it. And that's about it for Kinetic Typography.